Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she's the reason I'll never adopt? I, 30 female, have 3 bio siblings, 37 male, 36 male, and 33 female, and an adoptive sister, 31 female. My sister, who I will call Becky's bio mom, is my mom's cousin. The story of Becky getting adopted by my parents was basically her bio parents were addicts that just came one day out of the blue for a visit, then abandoned her at our house. She was 5 weeks old. For a few weeks, they tried to get my cousin's family to take her, but those a-holes didn't want the shame of a baby with medical issues that was born out of wedlock. My parents fell in love with Becky, and the rest was history. Thankfully, all Becky really needed was love and a good home. She beat a lot of odds and leads a healthy, successful life. My parents never hid the fact Becky was adopted. She's biracial, and we all learned about her heritage growing up. Everything was perfect until her parents reached out when she was 22. They were clean and wanted a relationship. In the space of a few months, she became a different person. It was like she hated us for taking her away from her bio parents. And as soon as she finished college and got the 20,000 euro check my parents gifted her, it's a startup we all got. She ghosted us and sent a letter to my parents telling them that if they ever try to contact her again, she will file a restraining order. She got married, and none of us even knew. Her mother passed away when she was 26, which led her father to relapse that unfortunately died 8 months later. After that, Becky reached out. My parents welcomed her back with open arms, but I still can't. Which leads to now. Me and my husband recently had a baby via IVF after 6 years trying. 5 natural. I brought my son to meet the family tonight, and after dinner all of us girls were in the living room. I brought up how he was worth everything, explaining my struggles, and that I'm gonna start naturally trying soon so he will have a sibling. Becky made a comment about why we didn't look into adoption since the world was already overpopulated, and I told her, honestly, we thought about it, but after all the crap you pulled, I'm afraid you're the reason I will never adopt. Becky yelled at me to get over it already, then left. And my mother said I shouldn't have spoken to her like that, so in the end I ended up leaving early too. My siblings are on my side, but my parents are extremely mad. Now for the top comments. Not stay home, because if her bio parents were still alive, she wouldn't even be around y'all right now. Becky straight up acted like an adversary by threatening a restraining order. It's always sad to hear when adopted children raised in loving households choose their birth parents over the ones who raised them. Becky also asked a question she shouldn't have if she wasn't prepared to hear the answer. She knew she caused a great deal of pain and anger. It doesn't take a genius to figure out why Opie prefers not to adopt. I'm sure it was hard to hear. It's quite possible she struggled with being adopted, especially considering she's biracial. But she chose to turn her back on her family, cut them out of her life entirely. It only came back because she lost her birth family. So Becky's using her family as backups and is upset that Opie has a problem with that? Tough. Becky needs to own up to what she did, make amends, and get into therapy. Opie might find some benefit in therapy as well. Not stay home. I hate adopted kids that turn on their parents who love them and raise them as soon as they find out their real parents want a relationship. She deserves it, honestly. Bio parents. The real parents are the people who raised them. I was adopted, and my mom referred to the woman who gave birth to me as my genetic mother. I love that term, as it is so much better than birth or bio parents. Not stay home. Did she ever apologize at least for what she did? To my parents? I honestly don't know. I was so hurt and angry because we were extremely close growing up. And with everything going on in my own life, I went low contact for a few weeks while everything was going on. But she did apologize to me about not inviting me to her wedding when she was drunk for my brother's birthday. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my husband a bad father because he allows his adult daughter's birthday to overshadow Christmas every year? When I met my husband, James, he had a 14-year-old daughter, Ella. Ella and I never really bonded, as she doesn't really like people. James always told me to leave Ella alone and respect her boundaries. I do believe he took her boundaries too far in some cases, as Ella is now a 27-year-old woman who refuses to speak when she doesn't want to. I have a 13-year-old daughter, Ava. Their pregnancy was a surprise, and I know the timing is bad, that I got pregnant right around the time I met Ella. And honestly, I have always felt that James prefers Ella. Ella is a lot like him personality-wise, and it is very subtle. But I feel like he loves Ella more. Ella never accepted her sister or I, but I've made peace with that, because getting Ella to speak is literally like pulling teeth. Ava hates Ella, but she knows that she has to be civil to everyone. Ella's birthday is December 23rd, and as a result, James never made too big of a deal about Christmas. Her birthday always took priority. This became an issue when Ava was born. James had always promised Ella he would take her to Europe to her 16th birthday, and Ella was insistent it had to be on her actual birthday. So to Christmas when Ava was 2, he actually missed Christmas, and we had a first fight of our entire marriage. He also told Ella crazy things like if a man doesn't make a big deal out of her birthday, to dump his ass, and that her birthday is much more important than Christmas. As a result, Ava complains every year that James cares more about Ella's birthday than about Christmas, and that she thinks Ella gets an unfair amount of money spent on her. Her birthdays are usually expensive, and 2 years ago she had a December wedding which James fully paid for. Even that Christmas, he refused to not do something elaborate for her birthday, and couldn't understand why Ava was annoyed. Also, Ella hosts a huge Christmas Eve which we're all invited to, but Ava and I didn't go, due to it mostly being her husband's family, so everything in December sometimes feel it is about Ella. This year, I feel bad, because I couldn't get Ava what she really wanted because it is out of stock. But Ella just had a baby and my husband bought her a ring with a baby's birthstone, which Ava knows about. Now Ella wants to go to Colorado for her birthday/Christmas Eve. James said he is going to go, because he can drive back and be home by about 10. I finally got annoyed and asked if he thinks he spent a fair amount of money/time/energy in Ella versus Ava, and I said it makes every Christmas about Ella and her birthday. He said I was being unfair because Ella has never excluded me from her plans, though she's rude and doesn't talk to me either. Finally, I snapped at him that he is a bad father, because one of his kids is a grown woman and one is not. He is now upset and says that was mean to say, and I just don't like Ella and he tries his best. I'm seeing a lot here that actually supports your husband's side. You really just don't like Ella, and you resent the energy that it puts into celebrating her birthday. I'm not seeing where it necessarily has to take away from Ava. Does he also make a big deal for Ava's birthday? This is missing from the post. Your husband bought a ring to celebrate Ella's child. That's nice. And it has nothing to do with the fact that you couldn't get Ava what she wanted for Christmas because it was out of stock. Trying to force your husband to ignore or downplay his daughter's birthday because it's 2 days before Christmas, and you seem to want him to entirely focus on his daughter with you isn't a good look. It really doesn't seem like he's neglecting Ava here from what you've written. You're the a-hole, sorry. Honestly, I'm leaning towards this too. Especially since Opie has yet to answer a single question about what he does for Ava. Maybe because she wouldn't admit he goes above and beyond for her too, and drops everything else to make sure she has a magical birthday? In fact, Opie only tells us what he does for Ella for Christmas. I see nothing what he does for Ava, so I can't tell if she is getting the same Christmas treatment as Ella. Because treating Ella for her birthday is not the same as treating her for Christmas. The only way to judge this is to know how he handles birthdays for both girls, and Christmas for both girls. It sounds to me like he doesn't do a lot for Christmas for either of them. He spends a lot of money on Ava, but it isn't personal. He tells me to plan/buy everything because he doesn't know what she wants. I know a lot of men do that, but he managed to know everything about Ella. You are accusing him of favoring one child over another, but it's clear that you've never liked your stepdaughter. He has 2 children. I have 1. Ella would have lost her mind if I ever tried to pretend she was my daughter, so I respect her boundaries, but he has 2 actual biological children. FYI people, Opie hid in the comments that husband was a single father to Ella, due to what I can only assume to be an abusive biomom. Ella testified against her mother as a kid, and had to get a restraining order. No bloody wonder they're so close. He is her mom and dad. I don't even want to know what happened to her. She must have been traumatized. Next story. Am I the a-hole for getting mad at my wife whenever she talks condescendingly about our son's work? So basically, my son is a professional aerial performer and is currently performing in this large and popular horror-themed circus where we live. I know I may be biased, but in my opinion, he's really good, and it's just amazing to watch him perform. Maybe a little scary sometimes, and sometimes I worry about him with some of the tricks and acts he does. My wife, however, will just tell people who works in the circus, never mentioning that he's an aerial performer, that he actually works independently and is basically a contractor, that he works with a very large and popular circus. Just that he works in the circus. Whenever we are out and she sees a clown, she will point at it and say, "Look, it's son's name." and it is very clear she looks down on him for what he does. She assumes he makes next to nothing and is poor. I know he's not. He doesn't make a crazy amount, but he makes enough to support himself well. This all came to a head when we were with some of her friends, and one of them asked if our son could entertain her kids at a birthday party, promising to pay him generously since he must be struggling. My wife laughed and responded with, "I'll see if it's free." I butted in saying, "You probably won't be able to since the birthday falls on a day when Popular Circus, which is where he works as a headline aerial act in, is fully booked because it's so close to the new year." Almost everyone there was shocked since all this info was new to them. My wife looked pissed and left. She sat in the car and texted me that she wants to leave. I stayed for about 20 minutes answering questions and showing them some videos. The woman who asked apologized, saying she was given the impression by my wife that our son was a struggling and failing cheap circus performer and wanted to help him. When I finally left and got in the car, my wife yelled at me, saying that I made her look like an idiot and a horrible mother in front of her friends. When we got home, she stormed out the car and locked herself in our bedroom crying loudly. She's been like this for almost an hour now, and I'm starting to feel awful and like an a-hole. I could have just left it alone. So am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. If telling the truth makes her look like a horrible mother, then she is one. Not the a-hole. You only told your friends your son's real occupation. Of course, it didn't align with her descriptions of him, because she deliberately deprecated his value and his profession. She talked about him contemptuously and denied his hard work and career achievements. When you reveal the truth, it exposed her as an incompatible parent at best, an abolitionist of his job and accomplishments at worst. Her friends must have been stunned when he told them the truth. It was foreseeable that she'll be upset. Who wouldn't be? She deals with the backlash of her actions now and is prone to face social repercussions and accompanying prejudices as well. But she caused it. For the record, there's nothing wrong with clowns or low-ladder circus workers as well. They're not deemed any less. She shouldn't have said those things, even if they were correct. Also, there's nothing wrong with entertaining kids at birthday parties. It's an equitable side gig and easy-made money. I hope you understand it, because it genuinely reads as you depict these workers as such and you didn't bother to clarify otherwise. I'm so sorry if it came across like I thought that way. I absolutely agree. The circus wouldn't be complete without them. You didn't make her look like a terrible mother. She did that herself. I've been into music my whole life. Neither of my parents have ever supported me or stood up for me when someone made a stupid remark. Yes, who doesn't speak to them that often nowadays? Well, maybe she shouldn't act like a horrible mom, in general all-around a-hat. Not stay home. Not stay home. Your wife is really out of order. Seems like she has a big problem with her son not conforming to her standards of success, but her shaming and belittling him to others is disgusting. Aerial performers are amazing. It's a shame she's not proud of his skills or success. Last story. Am I the a-hole for asking my dad to pay me back money I gave him because he said I was only lucky in finding a job? I, 25 female, live with my parents and little brother, male 13. For backstory, I give my parents money monthly to help with rent plus bills. I often treat them all to nice restaurants when I get a bonus, and even buy groceries and snacks for everyone to use at home. I've never been very studious, and I barely managed a degree that I have no interest in. I did not enjoy the field and never looked for work in it. Instead, I wanted to explore my options and tried a bunch of different jobs, some that didn't always pay well. Even then, I still contributed to the house and managed my own expenses. I was always into video games and my parents had a problem with it since I can remember, saying that it's not a girly thing to do and it won't get me anywhere. Well, about a year ago I got a job as a small copywriter for a video game-based page. It didn't pay well at first, but I worked very hard, got a promotion, and I'm now even in charge of sales and collaborations, where I make some decent money in commissions. The other day my dad was talking to my brother, and I was passing by and overheard their conversation. My dad told him he must study hard and get a real profession, and not to be like me because I just got lucky in finding a job related to video games, and it's not real work. Here's where I might be the a-hole. A while ago my parents needed some money in an emergency, so I gave it to them out of my savings. I even said it is okay, they don't need to pay it back. But after hearing my dad say I got to where I am because of luck, I walked up to him and said, "Remember the money I gave you guys? I'm going to need you to pay it back when you can. You see, who knows when my luck ran out, and I might need the money." My dad got mad and said I was an a-hole for being so petty over a small comment he made. when I know he doesn't have the money to pay me back. What do you think, guys? Am I the a-hole? Not an a-hole. Perhaps you should save the money you've been giving your parents and move out on your own. I live with them because they need help with the bills and stuff. I'm planning on moving out next year, though. If they don't respect the job you have and the money you make, it shouldn't be helping to pay their bills. I get wanting to help them, but if they're going to continue to bite the hand that feeds them, you'll only be reinforcing the behavior by staying. How is that your problem? I mean, what if your luck runs out and you wasted all that time and money helping your parents out when they don't even appreciate or respect you? Stop paying rent, save your money and move out. Your parents are the a-holes. I wish you could see the face I'm making right now. You have to help support them while they insult you? Make him pay you back. Not an a-hole. Whatever the amount was, take it out of your rent. There's another comment here to make sure you don't end up in a relationship where the person insults you while demanding you support them because you're used to it. And that's something you should be watchful over.